is because business, when I talk to organizations, because they are also marketing in the caveman days. Generally, from a marketing perspective, they're like Thag. They wake up in the morning, they go find the herd, sneak up on them, singles out the weakest member of the herd, chases them down, beats them with a club, drags them back to the cave and starts over. Or an organization wakes up in the morning, goes and finds the next customers, sneaks up on them, snakes them, and drags them into their store or whatever. And so the point I want to make here is we are always chasing the next shiny volunteer, donor, or Rotarian. And with the technology choices, we often feel like cavemans with regards to the internet, but I just think it looks cool. Eventually I'll get tattoo on my big muscles like that. All right, but before we get into the various tech, I see you, Joe. Before we get into the various technology platforms, I want to get us all on the same foundation. And the reasons that we are looking at digital platforms is because the goal of the digital technologies is to make what we're already doing better. All of our meetings, all of our projects, our fundraisers, we want to make them better. And if they're not tied to a good story, a good meaning, a great purpose, what we do next is not going to matter. Now, I want us all to have a basic understanding of more than the how we can use the digital technology. I want us to understand the why first, and then we're going to get into the platforms. And so the first thing to keep in mind is the story is everything. The story is about the fundraisers, about the service projects, about the club meetings, because people love a story. They remember a story. And so before we get into that, I want to look at this from a business point of view, a small business point of view. So whether they're product-based or service-based, most small businesses succeed due to repeat business. This means the nature of the relationship between the small business owner and the client or the customer is essential. A personal connection, a relationship, can help cultivate long-term business relationships. And what we need to do as Rotarians is understand how small businesses succeed and use that model that they are using success and transfer it to Rotary and nonprofits so that we can do it to success and apply it to what we want to accomplish. So when I say a sales or a customer, I need you in your brain to substitute either a volunteer or a donor or a Rotarian. So first of all, from a business point of view, if 90% of our repeat sales come from current customers, think about it this way: 90% of our volunteers at service projects are repeat volunteers. Most of our donors are repeat donors. That's what we are in right now. And so, well, what happens to the other 10%? Well, 9%, or look at it this way, of the 100 new donors we get, 90 of them come from word of mouth, from referrals, from people we already know. All right. So when you donate to something or to a new organization out there, if you discover a new organization, it's not like it came to you and hit you on the head like Fag. Usually it's one of your friends says, hey, this is a really good organization that I just did volunteer work or I just donated to, and they have a great story and this is what they accomplished. So the current customers, the current volunteers are sharing their experiences, and they are actually bringing in the new donors, the new prospects, the new volunteers. And so keep in mind, what we are trying to do is we got to focus on our current batch of people we got. We want to keep our current volunteers happy, our current donors happy, our current Rotarians happy. And so when we start talking about all these digital platforms, we're looking at it from digital marketing point of view. And so the first thing we've got to do with the story is provide a wow experience. If somebody comes to your service project and it's a train wreck, that's a wow experience, but the wrong side of wow. They're going to share that horrible experience just like you would if you had a horrible experience at a restaurant. That's what people share, or they share a great wow experience. They don't share mediocre. If you had a great meal, that's what you expect. If you had a great meal and it was just blown away great, then you're going to share that, or you have a higher probability of sharing that. So then now this is where we start coming in. We want them to stay in touch with us. We want to bring them back and repeat that experience with them. We want to engage our current people so that they come back. But here's the thing, when we start engaging the current people, then they start sharing it on their social channels of their choice. So we're looking at it, and there's digital platforms, but they're sharing it where they want. And when they share it, that's when we get our new prospect. And that new prospect can be a donor. That new prospect could be your next Rotarian. That new prospect could be your next volunteer. And so that's one of the things that we need to keep in mind as we start going to our digital platforms. We need to keep our current customer, AKA our volunteers, our supporters, our Rotarians, we need to keep them in mind for everything we're doing with regards to this. And in fact, if you can get them involved in what you are about to do, you get buy-in, and they will help you create implementing these digital platforms yourself. Now, you know the why. Now I'm going to share with you the various platforms you need to be considering and a couple things to keep in mind. You do not, and I repeat, you do not need to use all these platforms. You pick the ones you think are going to work best and you start there. Then you slowly add an additional platform as you grow and as you get volunteers that are going to help you grow. Now, we're in a very unique time, and with this COVID stuff, that means we can all try something new. Here's the neat thing. When you're trying something new, you are going to make mistakes, guaranteed. I still make them. But people are willing to forgive your mistakes. They know that you're trying something new, and they are going to applaud you for making a try and failing versus not even trying. So now is not the time to pull back. Now is the time to try things new with the thought of possibly eventually hybrid events. All right. This is not to replace everything. This is to try something new. And when things open up even more, keep the new, keep the old, and roll them together for both and get more people involved in what you're trying to do. So I have the platforms broken into 6 basic categories. And I want to start with your foundation, your website. Now, at a minimum, your website, if you choose to develop a website, needs to be mobile friendly. I prefer we have it mobile optimized. And almost everything you do now is going to be mobile optimized. Most businesses and the bigger organizations' websites are too big. And the problem with that is it gets stale. It's hard to keep things fresh if you've got 60 pages. All right. So if you keep it small, that's fine. Now, if you're actually going to take the time to actually build a website, this is a requirement. I hope you're writing this one down. You must integrate Google Analytics. All right. This is a free service. Google Analytics. Even if you don't know what you're doing, turning it on and letting it run behind the scenes is going to give you a wonderful amount of data that even if you don't understand it, someone in the future is going to thank you as they jump in to help you grow. So if you've got someone that says, oh, you know what, I'd love to help you with the website, and you've got 3 years of data on your website, they're going to love you for it. All right. So it's free. It's not hard. You basically create the Google Analytics account, and every website, that platform that I'm going to suggest, has the ability to just say, give me the Google code, and you cut and paste the code in, and you don't even worry about it. All right. Generally speaking, your website needs to be more than just a brochure. And what do I mean by that? Most people just put up, hey, we're Rotary, we meet Tuesdays at noon. That's not enough. Again, you've got to share your story. Your website should be about 3 pages at a minimum. One of them's contact us. One is our story of what we do. Another one, here's our guest speakers, that kind of stuff. And it also needs to be kept fresh. This is where a blog comes in, but basically a blog is regular updates. If you've got a new speaker every week, that's a blog. That is fresh content. And the beauty of it is Rotary has an advantage over most small businesses on this, because our content is widely varied every week. One week we could have somebody talking about water, and the next one we could be talking about small kids. It completely varied based on a guest speaker, which means when you start talking about what you are listening to and learning about, other people that are trying to learn the same things might stumble upon you. And that's where the SEO comes in. SEO stands for search engine optimization. It means if somebody is searching for rotary water service projects in Elmira, and we just had somebody speak about that 2 months ago, we are going to pop up in their radar. That is search engine. Someone else is searching for something, and it's optimized to find us first. And so that is what we're looking at here. Blogging keeps it fresh, and all you're doing is letting people know, and Google loves it. Now, even if you're not ready for a website yet, you need to buy your vanity URL. And all that is what is your website address? In this case, this Elmira Beer Fest is a vanity URL for one of our fundraising service projects. But we also have elmirarotaryclub.org, and that goes to our website. But at a minimum, if you own that, you can redirect that website to your Facebook page. So I have a couple small business clients that they own the URL because I told them to, and it goes to their Facebook page. So when they go and put out a business card, they can still put out ABC Motors on their business card, even though it goes to their Facebook page. And the advantage to that is they don't have to worry about updating the Facebook website because the Facebook is it. And if they're actively using it, it's there. So it's better than nothing, and you get to own it. So you can actually point Elmira Beer Fest to a website. You could post it to a Facebook event. You can post it to your digital platform we're going to talk about later. And the wonderful thing is you can also create custom emails. So now it can be Tom Brown at elmirabeerfest.com. And that can just forward to my Gmail address. It doesn't even have to be a real email account. It could just be a forward account. So platforms to consider: GoDaddy, Wix, Constant Contact. All of these have what we call template websites. They will hold your hand, you fill in a couple of forms, and boom, your website is built for you. All right, this is a really good low-hanging piece of fruit. All those top three allow you to do this. And so the beauty is you don't have to do much, and they will do the work for you. And they all have tech support. So if you're having a problem building your website, you kind of call Constant Contact support, and they're like, oh, you forgot this step, and they will walk you through and help you build your website. $10 a month is generally speaking what these cost you. It's a great thing. All right, next level is WordPress. WordPress is a bit more involved because now you actually have to have kind of a developer mentality. The downside to WordPress is if you lose your developer to Rotary and they move to another club, you are a very stale website. Versus if it's at Wix or GoDaddy or Constant Contact's website, you just call them and they can help the next person willing to go. So even if you're not ready for a website, again, buy your custom URL and move there. So plenty to choose from here. All right, next category, email marketing. All right, here's the thing about emails. Collect email addresses, even if you don't want to use them yet, because here's the neat thing. People are afraid that if they collect an email address, they're going to become email spammers, and that's not true. Well, it can be, but you won't be, because if somebody gives you an email address, they expect to hear from you. Okay. Now, whether or not you choose to make it a monthly or a quarterly newsletter is up to you. But generally speaking, if they register for an event, you're going to collect their email address and A, thank them for registering, and B, maybe send them a reminder. Don't forget tomorrow's the service project or tomorrow's the fundraiser event, whatever you're trying to do. And then more importantly, and this is what most people forget, at the end of the project, 2 days later, you should be sending them a thank you email. Thank you so much. Our service project was a success. We were hoping for $5,000 raised and we hit 6,200. This is going to go to help all these kids and whatever your thing. And so you remind people what your success that they were a part of, that they are a member of. How did they make things great? Conversely, if you had a goal of $5,000 and you only raised 4,800, you could say, we had a really stretched goal of 5,000, didn't quite make it, but 4,800 is just more than we raised last year. Oh, and by the way, if you didn't get a chance to donate, click on this button. And so you get a final chance to break that, because some people are like, oh man, I can give another 50, and boom, you've got this, Garen. So the whole point on this is one of the dirty secrets about social media and these other channels, which by the way, that's our next platform, is you don't own those customers, those volunteers, those donors that like your page, your Facebook page, or your YouTube or your Twitter. So if YouTube has a blip, or they don't like your video, or Facebook doesn't like one of your content posts, they can shut you down. And you have very little that you can do about it because you don't own it. It's free. It's their platform. So whatever platforms you choose, you should always be trying to collect email addresses. To me, that is almost a requirement. I would press my thumb on you, but there's so many ways that we need to do this. And from a business perspective, properly done, the ROI, which means return on investment to email marketing, is $44 for every dollar spent. If you properly develop your emails, you can't just say, give me money and someone's going to send you $44. There's a way to do all of that. But you'll notice across those categories, there's different ways of marketing, and that works well, just as well for online platforms. Platforms to consider: Constant Contact, Robly, and Keep are my three preferred. MailChimp is there. I'm not a fan of it, but that's fine if that's what you want. It's still better than not collecting email addresses. And there's a lot more than that. There is a plethora, there's your word of the day, of different platforms to choose from. And here's the other thing. Once you start using these platforms for emailing your donors, your clients, whatever, you also, again, get more analytics and data that with the right person can help you drive to long-term success. All right. Speaking of social media, we actually should be considering social media. And now, the thing is, social media is the new word. Oops, what happened? There we go. Is actually the new word of mouth on steroids. Everything is shared. In fact, entirely too much information is shared, but properly done, this can be harnessed and managed. I mean, if you look at Facebook, how many times have you seen a plate of spaghetti and you're like, why? Right? People share too much stuff, but that's okay. You can manage that. You can take what they're sharing and come up with a process where that helps make your event a better event. So Facebook is a necessary aspect of all the social channels. This is one every club and organization should have, but it's not really business friendly or club friendly to us. What I mean by that is, organically, when you post on your Facebook page, you're only going to reach, let's say you have 100 people, you're only going to reach 5 members. That's 100 people. 5% might see your post on their feed. All right, that's their news feed. Now you can boost that if you feel like donating money to Facebook, and you might double or, if lucky, triple your reach. So of the 100 people, 15 people might see your post on their news feed. So it's not really good as a push, but what it is good for is it's a doorway. People will see your Facebook page before they will see your website in a lot of cases. Your Facebook is in a lot of cases a first impression of you. And so this can actually be used as a landing page of a website. We talked about that. And so your goal is to give a great first impression, and try to get their email address after they're liking you. And there's different ways of doing that. That's a whole nother presentation. But Facebook, you've got to keep it fresh. So if they come to your Facebook page that you started and your last post was February 2020, that is not a good first impression. On the other hand, if it was February 2021 and it's April, it's not quite as bad. Generally speaking, you should post at least once a week. But if you do once every other week or so, and they see, people will scroll back and see your last 4 or 5 posts, they could see your pattern. All right. So make sure that you do Facebook. It's important, but it's not the big push. So you can't use that as you do. Now, social media from a nonprofit point of view, you could see major goal of many organizations is to talk about us. So if they're talking about what you're doing or what we're doing, people are going to become more involved. And you can see animals is the #1 discussion on social media, and go figure. Cute puppies, cute kitty cats. I've already seen 3 cats and 2 dogs today on our various Facebook, Zoom people out there walking across keyboards. But social media, I mean, that's such an easy thing for those people. And then there's others down there, and you can see Arts is a little bit harder for them, and that's fine. But the whole purpose is to start discussion. And then once discussion is starting, people start to take action. And look at that. After social media support, 59% of people are actually donating money. And Facebook actually has the ability to donate money through Facebook now. We do that for a nonprofit that I'm affiliated with too. So there's different ways to do. Now, here's the thing about Facebook. This is the sizzle that everyone's talking about, but it has to be a part of your story. And you can choose to use these platforms, but you need to have a dedicated plan. Social channel, not regularly updated, looks bad. Now, a lot of platforms to choose from. Looking over here, look at this colorful chart. The yellow ghost is Snapchat. The green is Vine. But guess what? Vine died over a year ago. It died. A social channel. It was great. Lots of stuff. It was about 6-second videos, which is, the attention span to most kids. Squirrel. No, just kidding. But, it doesn't exist anymore. So what platforms should you consider? I'm so glad you asked. Facebook, of course. If you have a photographer in your club or someone that loves to do pictures, Instagram, Pinterest is something that you should definitely consider doing. LinkedIn, I really want to push that harder, but it's a harder push. Remember, Rotary was founded by business people looking to interact with other business people. That's what LinkedIn is all about. So something to consider. YouTube, Rumble. Rumble is a challenge to YouTube now. It is the conservative movement that doesn't like being filtered out by YouTube. And it's nice and free. And Twitter, again, all of these are free. So things to choose from. And if you're considering them, get a vanity URL to protect it. So for example, if you are going to be on Twitter, you think, then buy twitter.com/Elmira Rotary Club or Elmira Beer Fest or whatever. Doesn't mean you have to use it. It just means no one else can steal it. All right, next one, software. Now, when we start talking about software and fundraising, I want to take this on the fundraising aspect. We want to start looking at what are the 6 basic types of fundraisers, and they fall into these categories. The ones that are most popular are thons or auctions, but all of these can be done online. And in fact, there's an announcement about auctions later on. Stick around. But what you want to do is make sure whatever platform you end up doing has the ability to do these fundraisers online and hybrid. All right, so generally speaking, when you're looking for platforms, they need to have these 6 features or 5 features. 6 ways to fundraise, or not 6 ways to raise funds, but they have the ability to do all 6 of those categories that we just looked at. Platform should be able to do an auction or an a-thon. If it can't, then that's not a platform you want to consider. Custom homepages, vital. You've done a lot of work. You've created your a-thon or your auction. You should have a homepage within the platform and then take your vanity URL and point to it. So I could go to Elmira Beer Fest and have it land on our a-thon if we were doing an a-thon or an auction or a sweepstakes. It doesn't matter. It lands where it needs to go. So that kind of a stuff. It needs to have a custom homepage for you to land at. Promotional tools. All your platforms should have the ability to use like social sharing. You should be able to share to Facebook, to your Facebook channel, to your Twitter channel, to all your other channels from within your dashboard. Team fundraising, and this is really big in a-thons. You should be able to create teams within the platform to allow others to compete against each other. So if you are familiar with most a-thons, you can say, hey, team captain B has 5 members, and he's going to have a unique link to him that he's going to share to all of his friends and buddies to raise money, because he wants to raise more money than his bosom buddy across the beer drinking buddy over there, and they're going to fight to see who can raise the most money. And so that works good. When other people fight to raise money for you, that's a winning option. So team fundraising. Text to give. Texting we're going to talk about later, but you got to have a text to give option. Everyone, this is an easier option integrated now. And widgets. Widgets is basically the ability to integrate your whatever fundraiser you're doing to your existing website or Facebook or some of the other channels. So integrations are really important. Management dashboard, you want to make your life easy. And analytics, you want to see what's resulting. Speaking of life easy, I want to reinforce that all that you're learning right now, this blast of information you're getting, is not really about making your life easier. It is, but it isn't. What you are doing is to make it easier for your volunteers, your Rotarians, your fundraisers to give you money. You want to make it easier for them to interact with your club or your event. It's going to be a little hard to set it up, but if somebody can donate $500 in 2 clicks, then it's worth the effort that you are putting in with these tools to learn it. And there is a learning curve to make life easier for them to come in. All right. So keep that in mind that, yeah, some of this is a little overwhelming, but it's worth doing. And finally, multiple payment options. How are you going to get the money to you? How does it get to your bank? If they only allow Stripe and they don't allow anything else, and you are a PayPal or you are an ACH, that's not very good. So they have to have the ability to get money to you in multiple ways. So platforms to consider: Event Groove, Charity Auctions Today, Trellis, and really there's a whole lot of them out there. Event Groove has the asterisk because that is what I am standardizing on for the district. We've used it a couple times for the district. We've done Rotary Foundation last year. We did earlier this year the the charity comedy night, and so we raised over $5,000 within the district. Half of that went to individual Rotary clubs because they had teams, and so it was really a neat tool. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, but some things to consider. All right, next, live streaming. Now, the power of engagement marketing is the next customer. And so they're connected to us in some way, but guess what? Live streaming. In the live streaming category, we actually have 2 subcategories. Raw broadcasting is what most of you are aware of. And most of these platforms you're probably aware of by now, especially because of the COVID situation, and also because you're on Zoom now. So I know you know about that one. Uh, they all have different features and benefits, but the main thing is the simplicity in getting a stream started. And what do I mean by that? In most cases, you just need an account, a mobile phone, ta-da, and voila, you are broadcasting like a TV. All right, and people can just choose to tune in or not. And so broadcasting are the different categories to do there. Now, the subcategory that you want to bring in is what we call studio broadcasting. And you can mix, what you can do with this is mix more than one camera onto the broadcasting. And I love StreamYard. That's my favorite right there. Then the other one is OBS. But basically what you can do is bring in multiple screens into one. So you guys are seeing one screen now. With this tool, StreamYard, I could put my face to the left, another speaker's face to the right. If I wanted to bring in Judy Phillips, she could also be here, and the third face broadcasting to everybody. And I could also bring in comments. So if someone left a comment on Facebook, I could run that across the bottom. I could have tickers. I could have overlays. And the beauty of it is then I push that stream to live and Zoom or whatever I want to do. So for example, for my church, we use StreamYard. I have 3 different cameras that come in. One that's the slides that shows the sermon. One is the pastor, and one is our the singing team, the worship team. And so they all come in, but we're broadcasting to Facebook Live and we're broadcasting to YouTube. So even though we're using StreamYard, it's broadcasting to those other channels. So some things to consider with regards to live streaming. All right, SMS texting. I bring this in first because here's the thing about it. The first and biggest thing to understand about texting is everyone is already texting. It's mass adopted. If they have a digital device in their pocket, 99.9999% of the time, it can text. Now, whether or not they use it to text, that's a whole nother question. But I firmly believe that these thumbs are going to develop in our hands in the next 60, 100 years. This is our next thing, because with all these little keyboards, we need littler fingers, and this is how we're going to progress in life. But really, what we need to understand with texting is there's a lot of advantages to texting. And I'm going to read a couple things to you. First of all, Phone calls are awkward for those of people who are not great at social interactions. Have you seen kids? They would much rather interact on the phone than face to face. Oh my goodness, they break up with each other. They start dating with each other on text because they're afraid of the rejection face to face. So all of a sudden they're doing it this way. That's fine. You can actually think about what you're going to say and then say it. How many people have said something and wish they hadn't said it? But if I'm typing it, I can say, maybe I should change that or something else. One of the worst things is voice to text. You say, please get me some sesame chicken for dinner, and it says, I want to eat sesame children. Something's not quite right. But text is also proof that someone said something. If they said, you never told me that, you can go, here's my phone. And yes, you replied, I did tell you. Texting saves time. Conversations are simpler. People tend to babble less on text. So it's sometimes usually short and sweet. It's quiet and disturbs no one, but people actually involved in the conversation. You've got some people with these earbuds, you can't tell they're talking to someone on the phone, and you start in on their conversation. Like this lady walked by and says, that's a wonderful tie you got. And I'm like, thank you, ma'am. And she looked at me crazy. She was talking to the guy on the phone. I'm like, how am I supposed to know that? It was a good tie. I took the credit. So, quick response times, it leaves you do other things. You can do multiple stream conversations, keep other people in the loop, and there's no app needed. Everybody's already got it. So texting platforms to consider. Now, someone had a question on this, so let me explain what I mean by a texting platform. Twilio is my favorite one, and it is integrated with Event Groove. So this allows someone that is following an auction to get a text. So if they choose, they opt in, and they say, oh, I'm bidding on this, and please let me know if someone overbids me. They get a text, you've been outbid. Oh, and with a link, and they go back and they bid higher. So it's an integration. What this allows you to do is broadcast one message to 50 people. We use this with my karate school to the parents. And so we will, if, for example, it's a snow day and we cancel karate that night, we will send a text to everyone that signed up. We will post it on Facebook. We will send an email and we'll Facebook message them. All these ways that there's no karate tonight, and guaranteed one parent will still show up and say, but you didn't tell me. I'm like, did you do this, this, and this? And they're like, well, no. Well, get on it. And so texting is just a platform that allows me to communicate to a lot of people all at once, simply for whatever reason we need to. So it's just a platform to consider with regards to integrating everything. So here's all the platform categories, and please take note of the NC stars. This is your next customer, your next prospect. They're everywhere. Your next Rotarian. So if you're using some of these platforms, the goal is to get our current Rotarians, our current donors, to also leverage this and share it out. So maybe there's an auction for an item, and they're like, oh, Mary, you need to bid on this item. And so she can share the item to Mary, who's not a Rotarian or even knows about the auction, to someone that might be interested in an item. And boom, we've got somebody in. All right. And if they bid, they have to register. So now we got their email address. All right. So there's ways to go on this. All right. So a couple, before I take questions, a couple announcements. First of all, if you have not entered your club into the District 7120 Facebook contest or the website contest, write this down. It's 3 questions: your name, your club, and the link to your Facebook page or your website. And that's it. Submit your club to these contests. And also, if you go to the link, there's a link on that landing page of how we're going to grade you. So it says you get 10 points for this and 5 points for this. If you haven't done it, do it. It's to help make your club better on these 2 virtual channels. All right, the deadline that is quickly approaching is next Friday, April 16th. So you still have time. All right, next one, fundraising. This is all about me. Actually, it's all about you. I am now going to be hosting a regular monthly meeting on Zoom to talk about district events and fundraising forum. And it's not as, I got to come up with a better name. This is really about you guys. This is anyone that is interested in using Event Groove or other platforms. It's not about Event Groove. And if you got questions on how to make your event better, I'm here. This is going to be interactive. So if we've got, if Judy decides to bring in, we're doing this fundraiser in September and we are looking for ideas. And Jim says, oh, have you ever considered this? And Judy's like, no. And so it's all about helping each other, facilitate it. I'm going to have industry experts as much as possible coming in. If you want to do an event and just are afraid to start, we're going to help you get started here. This is about getting your club going. The third Friday of every month at 4 o'clock. There, put it on your calendar. It's going to be the exact same link. It's on our Facebook channel. It's going to be on our website. It's going to be in the grapevine. If it's not you, put somebody else on it. If they're in some way, shape, or form trying to get on the digital platforms, this is where you want to be. All right, commercial done. Next commercial. We are part of Zone 32, which is, I think, 9 districts, and Zone 28 is another 6 districts. So, and all those clubs involved, the leadership of Zone 29 and 28 and 32 is putting together a musical to learn about public image, basically to teach you how to do more public image in a fun way. I cannot wait to see this. It's open to everybody. And just like the last email, the P, the I, the T, and the M in PI, public image, the musical, they are capitals. It is case sensitive. This is case sensitive. This is case sensitive. It's got to be capital FB. It's got a capital W. All right. And so go to this. This is going to be fun. It's put on by 2 zones to help the districts and their clubs and their zones and their clubs too. All right. So end of the slideshow. There's my email address. There's my phone number. Write it down if you don't have it. You can text me, which is my preference, or you can call. I do like text and email. If you have any questions beyond what we're trying to do, this session has also been recorded, so we're going to be making it available down the road. If you have someone that really should have been on this, I'm going to stop the share right now. So in 3, 2, 1, it's .com, by the way, MediaMarker.com. And we're going to open this up for questions to you. One of the things, and I forgot to mention on my commercial, the district is going to be doing a auction to benefit the districts and the clubs similar. And we're going to flesh out the details in our first meeting on April 16th, the first one, whatever date that was, the third. Oh my goodness, I was so good until now. 3rd Friday. So we're going to flesh that out, come up. We want to help the clubs learn this. So the rule generally is every club that is going to ask to donate 1 item to the auction, and then they can add 5, 6 more items for their clubs. So whatever they sell, they get to keep, and then the district makes a little money for the foundation too. So we are now opening for questions. Press your space bar. We have, about 10 minutes. Oh, come on. There's got to be questions.
Okay, I got a question. Yeah, I've got a website, I've got a Facebook page. You told me to connect them. Now I'm ready to keep going. What's the next thing I should be most interested in?
Well, it depends on how you've connected them. So I'm going to make a couple assumptions. So on your website, there's probably the magic blue F. And if you click on the blue F, it takes you to your Facebook page. That's important that you test, because sometimes people end up going to facebook.com because they forget to put the rest of the URL in there. That happens about 20% of the time. The other thing is how we are using, Elmira Rotary Club is using the integration is we use Club Runner for our website. And so I probably should have put that on the list. Anyway, what you can do on certain posts is you can embed a post on your website. So the most interesting stuff, I will take a post, put it on Facebook. I will grab the embed code and put that on our website. And the nice thing about this is I don't have to retype anything. And the other part is if people want to engage and leave comments, they can leave it right on my Facebook page from my website. So that is an interesting way to keep your content fresh a lot. So our Facebook page is much fresher than my website. I'm sure if you go to it now, it's probably a couple months old from a previous service project. So generally speaking, we don't put our speakers, because we record all of our speakers, onto our website, but they're on our Facebook page. And so you want to, but all our service projects are on both. So it just depends on what kind of plan you want to do. And do you have a custom URL for your Facebook page? The
I
way to
don't know.
answer that is, does it say facebook.com/penyan06445 and then the last stream of numbers? If it has the stream of numbers, you want to custom that and get rid of the stream. Just make it Penyan Rotary or whatever you want. Next question. Come on. Somebody give me.
I simply can't wait to go to my other computer and start applying all this.
Slowly but surely. Oh, I forgot to mention, with Event Group, I'm involved in different nonprofits outside of Rotary, go figure. And I have ended up, we're going to be, Event Group is available for other nonprofits, non-Rotarian. If you have a nonprofit that you're interested in, see me on the side and we'll get that handled straight up. It's pretty much the same type of tool. They get it, the ability to use it for free. But it's not within the Rotary brand. So I decided to bring it in and it's going to be branded under Events Barker. Go figure. So they needed somebody local. Robert.
Yeah. Hey, Tom, not a question, but I just want you to know that today I learned how much I don't know. I really, and that's valuable because now I know some things to pursue, either personally or maybe with my buddy Dave, who was also on today, so we can figure out how to take advantage of the various things you told us about. So thanks so much. In fact, this is the second session I'm tuned into because the first session was interrupted with a phone call, and I just didn't want to miss a word. So I'm looking forward to also retrieving what you save, and will be, the recording. So thanks a lot, Tom.
You're welcome. Just, for all you guys out there, audit what you got. See what you got. Make a list and see what, and by audit, I'm saying go to Google and type your Rotary Club name and see what shows up. You would be amazed what Google or Microsoft or any of the other search engines will find about you. So.
Yeah, good to see you, Bob. And I'm doing a lot of that Googling research right now as well, Tom. I have a question. Your opinion on the friendliness, I guess that's right, but the friendliness of the Club Runner web platform as opposed to a GoDaddy or a Wix or something like that?
My opinion is it is not. Club Runner, I'm a Power Club Runner user now by force. Because I inherited the district Club Runner website about 8 years ago, and it was just organically grown. And it took me 18 months to really clean it up. And now we've got a committee and they are making it even the next step prettier. So it just took a while. The general aspect of the hardest part to maintain is the structure. So you want to make your menu system important first and then build around it. I'm not a fan, but it's a necessary thing. The biggest advantage to Club Runner is if somebody were to, for example, make a WordPress website, you got a Rotarian that's a power user and he knows what he's doing, makes it beautiful, and then transfers to Europe. What happens? That's the biggest problem I get in a lot of people is they all of a sudden don't have passwords or access to it. And so it just becomes a problem. So Club Runner kind of takes that away because it's easy for me, because I know the execs there, to reclaim access for another Rotary Club member local.
Yeah.
When you start doing a Constant Contact, Wix, or GoDaddy, to me, that's the next best. The downside to that is there's a cost involved. I mean, $10 a month, generally speaking, whereas if you got Club Runner, you're already paying for it. So now it becomes a financial situation. I like Constant Contact because you get more with that than just, if you get the next level up, you've got the email that I love, you've got surveys, you've got a website, You've got the event registration if that's something you want to do. So there's different things. It just depends on where you want to integrate.
Mhm.
For me, Club Runner is I use for my club, so that I can stay fresh for Club Runner for you guys, not my preference. But once you learn it and understand what they're trying to do, it's easy to maintain. Getting it set up to look pretty, not so easy. They do have a lot of training videos. I've watched them all. Even if I wasn't interested, I watched it because I was always looking for nuggets. It's worth watching what you need. They are a bit
Mhm.
long-winded like me, but worse. But the fact is they have it and they are helpful.
Mhm. Very
Will
good.
you
Thank you.
remind us? Go ahead, David.
I just said thank you. Go ahead there, Phil. Paul.
Will you remind us where we can go and send other people to see the videos of these sessions, particularly yours today?
They're going to be on our district YouTube channel. It's going to take at least 4 or 5 days to get the various channels uploaded. What we're going to do is there's going to be a landing page created either by me or somebody else within the group that's going to have a link to everyone. And you'll just click on it and you'll be able to land. So that's going to take us more than a couple days to get set up, but it will be available for all. Give us a little grace on that one. It won't be ready by the end of the day, I promise.
I have a question. What is
Yes,
your
Alan.
favorite site for selling tickets to events and things? What do you like
It
to
has
use?
changed. It's now Event Groove. Event has, because it has the ability to integrate with other things. So, and I haven't fully explored it yet, but for example, if I'm selling tickets to the Elmira Beer Fest and I want to support it with an a-thon, I can have the a-thon running across the bottom or the auction. And so the ability to integrate, and they have other integrations to have printed tickets. So if you really want to put some flash to it, you can have ticket sales, and the ticket, you send it to them, and all that stuff is integrated. I like the full integrations with that, with the Event Groove system. The next level down is Constant Contact with their event module. I like that a lot. I've tried Club Runners. I'm not a fan of theirs. They have it, but again, the biggest problem I have with that is the ability to email within the people that register for the events is significantly limited. So we've got 1 minute left. Anybody else?
I have one suggestion
Yeah,
real quickly, just from experience. Make sure, this kind of goes into the succession planning. Make sure whoever owns your platforms and it has the passwords, if they leave or leave the position, make sure those passwords are preserved on a lockbox. Our Twitter was dormant for a long time. I've been looking for the owner. I've not been able to find it and had to recreate another Twitter account.
Right.
So it's important that those are passed along.
If you can, create a master president at elmirarotaryclub.com.
Yeah.
And make that the master password to everything. And then
Yeah.
that way, all you got to do is change who that forwards to. If you're using GoDaddy, like I am, you could call GoDaddy and say, hey, he's not here anymore. Can you change the forward?